Welcome back, you guys. How you all doing today? In today's News Daily video, I'm going to break down the three big reports that came out this morning. For the first report, we have to discuss the updates in regards to a venue change in our round of 16 game against Atletico Madrid. And for the other two stories, you guys, talks are that us and Man City are both in a race to sign Erling Haaland this summer. So hear the latest news behind the story. And for the final big story, we're discussing Paris Saint-Germain wonderkid Kays Ruiz Atil, and reports suggesting that we are holding talks with his reps in efforts to sign him for the next summer window, you guys. So we have a big day of news ahead. Of course, there is going to be the match preview for the Barnsley game a few hours after this news video, so stay tuned, you guys. And without wasting any more time, and to start with the first story, I think it's only right that we break down the updates behind this venue change. Now, after days and weeks of speculation suggesting that we might not be playing in Atletico Stadium, it finally got confirmed by the club this morning, and yes, you guys, the game will be played in Romania, in Bucharest to be more precise, in the Arena Națională Stadium. The game will still take place on the 23rd of this month at 8 PM UK time, so make sure you guys have that date booked. And now, you might be wondering, Nini, why are we now playing this game in Romania? What's happening in Spain? I'll break the story down for you guys. Basically, in Spain, they've extended the travel restrictions until the 2nd of March, meaning that unless you're a Spanish citizen, or unless you come from Andorra, you're not allowed to come to Spain for any reason. So naturally, this does mean that games expected to be played in Spain can't happen anymore. And this is where things get a bit interesting now, because Simeone was very comfortable with the stadium change. He kind of vouched for it in a sense, and that's for very good reason, because back in 2012, Atleti beat Bilbao in the Europa League final back in the Arena Națională Stadium. So knowing Simeone, how he operates and how he believes in the superstitious side in football, it's no surprise why Simeone would be comfortable playing the game there, and maybe for good reason. Right now with Atleti, so many of their players have been struck with COVID. New signing Moussa Dembele, João Felix, guys like Lamar, Hermoso, Carrasco, and many more. And I guess my thinking is, we know that when players do come back from bouts of COVID, you're not your full self for a while, because this is a respiratory disease, meaning that it might take these guys a few weeks to really come back and be ready. And my thinking, my guesstimation would be, when the game is played on the 17th of March in the second leg game, Simeone's plan may be to defend in the first leg and then take the game to us in the second leg, which was pretty similar to how we lost to them in that that semi-final all those years back under Mourinho. Now, I was at that game, and you guys, it was one of the most depressing games of my life. The game was effectively over by like the 55th or 60th minute, and I had to stay in the stadium knowing that we had no chance in hell to get back into the game. And it was like the first time ever I contemplated leaving the game early, knowing that nothing could happen. Now, I'm a little bit of a purist when it comes to how I watch my sports. I say right to the final whistle, you guys. That's how I like to do things. But anyway, let's move on to the second report, and let's discuss the latest news surrounding Erling Haaland. Now, again, this report came out from Eurosport from writer Dean Jones, and it confirms that Man City, another club that have had long-term interest in signing Haaland, they are very interested in testing Dortmund's resolve to see if a deal can be struck in this window. And the article does suggest that if this was the case, this could force us to, crank our efforts up to sign him. As Man City are looking for a long-term successor for Sergio Aguero, they've considered players like Messi. They've looked at players like Lautaro Martinez, whose price does not reflect the ability of the player at this point in time. Now, we do know the news already, you guys. The club's board, they're after Haaland. However, let's break down this news even further. Now, as I reported in my previous News Daily video suggesting the interest in Sancho right now in Dortmund, the only way that there's a possibility that both Haaland and Sancho would be sold in the same window was if they missed out on a UCL spot. Now, Dortmund have been really affected by COVID this season. Of course, the lack of stadium revenue, the lack of so much commercial opportunities as well. For clubs like Dortmund, whose business model really relies upon young players fulfilling their potential and selling them for big money, they can not only sustain themselves from that model, they need to make money from matchday revenue as well, and of course from the TV rights money that comes from participating in the UCL, because that's worth around 40 million per season, and for a club like Dortmund, that's money they can't afford to miss out on. So realistically, I do feel like Dortmund could turn things around. I feel like this hypothetical is a bit of a nightmare situation, and when it comes to selling both Sancho and Haaland in the same window, I feel like that won't be the case. There's a reason why Haaland has his release clause for next summer set at around 75 million euros, and reports have already confirmed that Dortmund are not looking to sell Haaland in this window. The only way that could happen is if a club wants to spend way more than the release clause set for next season, and even then, Dortmund prefer to sell Sancho, who of course was close leaving them last summer and kinda has his head set on a move away already. So this does mean that they have reduced their demands for Sancho from around 120 million down to around 80 million pounds, which makes his sell a lot more realistic. And when you break down the news even further, Haaland, his team, his reps, they feel like a move to England might be a bit too soon at this point in time. So it does kind of feel like these reports are getting a bit played out. They are getting stretched out a bit too much, you guys. And for me, I just don't see Dortmund saying both Sancho and Haaland in the same window, not when they need one of these guys to stay to help them get back into a potential UCL spot for the following season. So you guys, I guess they were the updates in regards to the Haaland news. And now to end things with a much more substantial report, we're now going to go back to Ligue 1, specifically to Paris Saint-Germain and their young 18-year-old midfield player in Kays Ruiz Atil. Now these reports came out from Foot Mercato, and it seems like Ruiz Atil is considering leaving Paris Saint-Germain come the summer. His contract does expire in 2021. This season, he has only accumulated up to 185 minutes of football, and ever since Pochettino has signed as the new Paris Saint-Germain manager, he hasn't even been on the bench. He's been phased out the team completely, and this has left the player feeling quite disillusioned when it comes to signing a new contract extension. Even though at Paris Saint-Germain they have high beliefs on the player's potential, the player at this point in time, he's not feeling too loved and he's considering his future away, as it seems that Pochettino is not considering the player. This now brings us into the fold, and reports state that we held talks with his reps last year, and it seems like Tuchel's presence would help facilitate any move to Stamford Bridge, which makes a lot of sense because when Paris Saint-Germain signed Ruiz Atil from Barcelona, Tuchel played that part to persuade him to sign for Paris Saint-Germain. So Tuchel clearly likes the player. And now you guys, I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions behind this news because I spoke about this story last year. Now last year it was confirmed that Claude Makelele, our technical advisor, had held talks in Paris with Ruiz Atil's reps and his team, talking about a potential move to Stamford Bridge. Now, this move did not materialize in the end. I'm guessing that Ruiz Atil felt like he was going to get more time, more minutes to play for Paris Saint-Germain, which was happening at the start of the season, under Thomas Tuchel. However, when he left, so did Ruiz Atil's minutes too. Now, immediately, if we were to sign him, it does bring up questions in regards to the other young midfield players that we have at the club already, and when it comes to Billy Gilmour, because I look at Ruiz Atil and Gilmour, they kind of play a pretty similar game, and would this signing be a case of overkill? With this club, there are so many different ways to assess news like this. Of course, we have the new look loan army, we have Malang Sarr on loan, and if he was signed, this could be a club decision to, help him find the best club to grow, to improve, then further assess him in the future to see if he's at that level to play for us. However, Ruiz Atil does have a big reputation. He is a very technical player that can play between the lines and moves the ball with pace. And for me, this is why I bring up the Gilmour references. And I don't know, I feel like you can't have too many players in the same position fighting for a spot in the team. And after Tuchel's comment suggesting that he's already watched an in-house under-18 game, watching the academy guys, and he was in such high praise, speaking about how already, from a physical and technical point of view, some of these players are already Premier League ready. So it does get me thinking, if we were to sign him, could this potentially cause issues in the team? Who knows, it's just speculation at this point in time. A part of me does feel like with these reports though, this could just be the agents trying to, use the press for their advantage to, make it aware that Ruiz, he does want to leave, he is going to be available, and, try and see how much interest comes from the news being released. Of course, last summer, clubs like Arsenal, clubs like Dortmund, and so many more have also looked at the player too. However, you guys, for my final hypothetical, if Thomas Tuchel wants him, then for me, I believe that he should get the player that he wants. He's worked alongside him for many, many years, so he's going to know his game inside and out. And when a player of his potential is available on the market for free, I guess that's something that you just can't turn your attention from, and that's something that you have to strongly consider. So you guys, they were the 3 stories for today. I hope you guys enjoy. Later on, there is going to be the match preview for our game against Barnsley, so stay tuned for that, you guys. I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos.